Hello, good day, guys. Today we'll be doing the gbpusd daily market outlook, which I always do every single day of the week. So, today being Monday, today is third on Monday of November 2025. So, I'm doing this analysis every single day. So let's see what we'll be expecting during this London session. So, starting from the 4 hours time frame, we can see we are in a bearish market, right? We are making lower highs and lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs and lower lows. So we just had a higher time frame break of structure to the downside here. This is our swing high and this is our swing low. So we could be expecting a bearish push from either the supply zones or the extremes here. So that being said, we understand that we are bearish. Our main push, our main leg on the 4 hours time frame is bearish. Now let's look on the main push of the 4 hours time frame, which is the last lower high here that made this overall bearish lower low here. Is our bearish main push to the downside. So we know that we can reduce this right now because we have found the um intraday main push, which is this last lower high that made this lower low because we broke the structure to the downside. Now that we know that we're in a bearish market, where are we in that bearish market? We have not, we are in the lower low zone right here. We are in the lowest point of the bearish market. So what could we be expecting? We could be expecting at some point we make a pullback to a supply zone before continuing bearish. Now, once we go to the lower time frame, we will refine the supply and we will look for our decisional and our extreme. For now, let's just leave it like this as this last order block that led to the break of structure because we also swept liquidity here. So that being said, we know where our valid supply zones are on the higher time frame. So at some point, we could be expecting price to come to one of these supply zones before continue bearish, right? So the other thing to note is we look left and we see where are we in price action on the left hand side. So what I can clearly see is we have just come to clear a strong liquidity point on the higher time frame. As you can see, we have one touch here, we have one touch, we have second touch, we have the third touch. We have a very strong support level that just got taken out on the higher time frame, right? We just swept that liquidity right now. And what could we be expecting? We could be expecting that this liquidity could be enough to give us at least a pullback to a supply zone before we continue bearish. So that's just one framework. That's just what I'm seeing, that we could, this inducement, this run of liquidity that we have could give us a very nice pullback to either the supply zones before we continue bearish, right? So let's quickly go to the 15-minute time frame and let's read a more intraday structure, because I don't trade the higher time frame. I just analyze based on the higher time frame and I know where my relevant zones are and I know what is valid, right? So coming to the intraday, we can see that we have substructure, right? We have this last lower high here that made this lower low. This would be my intraday main push. The reason I'm not too keen, I'm not too interested in this zone right here, because it's also valid, right? It's valid because it led to the break of structure, so it's a valid zone. All right, so we have the extreme, which is up here, and we have the decisional based on the 4 hours main push, right? That is our 4 hours main push. This is our 4 hours main push high, and this is our low right here. So we know where our main push are, but based on intraday, intra-session main push, it will be based on this last inducement that led to this break of structure and also clear the liquidity on the left. So this will be a more intraday main push intra-session. So we know that this supply zone here led to the break of structure on the left there that continued the bearish market. Now let's look for our relevant supply zones first. So that's what we'll do when we are doing the top-down analysis. So the relevant supply zones that I can mark right now is the zone that led to the break of structure. Now let's see which zone actually led to the break of structure. Now, if you look closely, I know a lot of you don't like wicks as a break of structure, but I'm telling you, wick can be considered as a break of structure. So, but for now, we know that the zone that led to the break of structure, our decision, and we have already find our extreme, which is this supply zone here. Now if you want to refine, it's not so important for us to refine it because price is not near here right now. So when price is near there, that's when we can refine it more. But we can also see that we have this nice supply zone here. The reason I like these supply zones more than this one here is because we have a form of manipulation, because we are making a series of bullish trend, because a lot of people could be seeing this as a bullish break of structure. We broke the structure right here. We swept liquidity on the left that led to a break of structure, and they'll be looking to buy from here. And as you can see, this little reaction here is the smart money trap, because we give them reaction. We invited buyers on the lower time frame, giving internal break of structure, and eventually we take them out. We actually sold from here. So That being said, we came to mitigate some supply and continue bearish, and that's why I like that zone more than this one, because this one also didn't give a sweep. We just had a mitigation, and we continued bearish overall. So we cannot leave that out. We can still mark it out because it led to the break of structure. Now, based on our main push, which our intraday main push, now we can call it as from this supply zones down here. We have marked out our relevant zone. Now let's read substructure, because price is not near any of these valid supply zones right now. So what do we do? Are we going to wait for price to show to start coming to these supply zones first before we looking to sell from there? No, we can read more of intraday structures, which are these substructures, which are these lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower low, new lower high, lower low, lower high. That means this lower low right here. So this lower low, what I want to analyze here is we had the lower high, the last lower high, that made the lower low. So we can mark out our relevant supply zones from there, right? But one thing is important to know, that we have just cleared a very strong liquidity point on the left on the higher time frame. We first swept that liquidity, which was this, but we failed, right? We failed to break structure. We actually came to mitigate a supply zone here. We came to mitigate the supply zone, and we continued bearish. So we didn't have, after we swept those equal lows on the higher time frame, we didn't have a continuation. We actually have the selling continuation here, which we actually took a sell trade from this zone. After we have internal break of structure, we actually took a sell, and we continued bearish, right? So after we had the higher time frame demand, higher time frame swept previous this low, we saw a buying continuation that we took, and right now we are sitting on this zone here. So now, based on our substructure, which we just analyzed, the last lower high, lower low right here, right? Then we had a lower high that eventually made this lower low to this one here. Now let's mark out supply zone, and let's see if it's going to be valid. So this is how we do the top-down analysis as we are coming lower time frames, right? So what I can clearly see right now is there are lots of mitigations from the supply zone. As you can see, once we did that, we came to mitigate. Once we break structure again, we came to mitigate. Once we break structure here again, we came to mitigate. Once we break structure here, we came to mitigate. All right, price was just giving us a bearish order flow. So what I'm seeing now is we have a lot of liquidity, we have a lot of order flow liquidity that price is, we have a lot of liquidity right now that price could be targeting. Now the most valid supply zone that I see on this substructure is not even valid, because it's not that strong, like, right? It's going to give us a reaction, but I'm not going to see more of a follow through, right? We have a supply zone right here, but the last lower high that made it lower low, we have a supply zone right here, an unmitigated supply zone right here. But this supply zone actually swept liquidity, and we mitigate, but we didn't come to the exact candle here. You can see we have some kind of liquidity resting just above that supply zone there, because this supply zone actually swept liquidity equal highs here that also mitigates previous supply zones. So we could be expecting some kind of reaction once we are coming to this zone here, because it's the last lower high with supply that didn't get mitigated. But I'm not saying we are going to reverse and continue bearish. We are going to have a reaction, but we are going to see if it's valid to sell, or are we going to continue to take out that supply zone, or are we going to reverse from it, take a trade to reverse from it. So that's what we are going to see when the London session is about to begin. So for now, let me bring out this tool and let's analyze more on intraday and see what exactly is going on the market. So let me take out these drawings first. So like I said, we have a lot of mitigations from these supply zones. We have a lot of mitigations. There's no actual point that price I can see that could reverse price to continue bearish. No, we have just had a very strong liquidity sweep on the left, which I explained, and we are seeing bullish pushes out, right? But right now, where are we reacting from? Are you going to be seeing, are you going to be selling what do I call it, Asian high sweep on any of the supply zone? Definitely not. That's going to be a disaster. What I'm seeing now is price could give us some bullish reaction. So I have a kind of favorable situations for this London session, right? And I'll explain what we could be expecting for today's price action, today's analysis. Now let's go to the last time frame, which I'm going to be doing that daily cycle variations, right, before we could see how the London session presents. So first of all, I'm seeing this supply zone here basically because it has this liquidity, but I'm not just going to be jumping into sell. I need to see more kind of confirmations, right? So the first favorable scenario that I see right now is price could, you can see we have a lot of trendline liquidity right here. We have a lot of trendline liquidity. as you can see. So at some point we could manipulate this liquidity point, come to a demand zone there during our London session, and we look to buy to continue out, to continue away and continue the pullback. And once we have a bullish break of structure on the upside, then that's when we can anticipate that we have started a pullback, because we need to see the last lower high that made the lower low now breaking structure to the upside, and that will anticipate that we have started a pullback. But for now we are in no man's land. We made a lower low, but we haven't made a bullish break of structure. We swept a strong liquidity point, but we haven't gotten a break of structure, and sellers, we are not seeing strong sign from sellers. So what do? We focus more on intraday, intra-session, and that's when we start to bring out our daily cycles and see what's the most favorable scenario for this session. This zone that price is reacting from is not actually a zone, it's not actually a strong zone, because as you can see, it didn't sweep any liquidity. This supply here, supply chain, was already mitigated, so there's no valid zone around here. This zone that price is reacting from, I can see it as a smart money trap. So that's what I'll be calling this for now. Now, the favorable situation that I can show is we come down here, we manipulate a demand zone here, we come to some kind of valid demand zone during our London session, and we can look to buy a continuation, because we also manipulated trend line traders and breakout retest traders who are seeing trend line break, retest, and continuation to the downside. We'll continue bullish to the upside, so trapping them, because we know we are not reacting from any supply. Now this is one framework. The other framework could be that price just mitigate this demand zone here, and we continue bullish, take out this zone, and we come to this supply zone that I've been talking about. And this is how I can sell this, because we can see that London open, we took out Asian high, we took out a lot of liquidity coming to that zone. There we can look for sales. All right, we can look for sales to at least come to a particular demand zone, or we come and take out this whole Asian low, all this liquidity here. That being said, we'll be looking for more sales than buys. Now, I'm not so interested in this framework that I just explained, because as you can see, I'm expecting a reaction, but not much, and we shouldn't see more reaction until we take out a lot of this other flow liquidity to the upside. We still have another supply zone here that price could react from, and we could continue bullish, right? We could continue bullish once we start the complex pullback. Once we see a break of structure, we can continue bullish to the upside to hit that supply zone and maybe give a reaction, or maybe we start to have a complex pullback back to one of these supply zones here before we continue the bearish structure that we explained. But for today, for today's analysis, we can see right now that most likely we manipulate this trend line that is forming. We manipulate that trend line, we come to this demand zone. The reason I'm looking at this demand zone is not yet my London session just yet. The reason I'm looking at this demand zone here is because it's swept liquidity. As you can see, there are a lot of liquidity, there are lots and lots of liquidity to the downside. Now this is also something I'm looking at, because we have what do I call it, support and resistance. People who are seeing support, resistance turn into support. We have another support right here, and people are looking to buy. We could just manipulate those support and resistance traders come into this demand, or we could even have a situation that we manipulate the whole demand zone, or maybe coming into some kind of here zone here. And once we see the final manipulation during our key time window, then we can look for that buying continuation to the upside. There are a lot of ways that we could have that price could move during this London session that we're about to enter right now, or we could have a situation where price comes to take out all this liquidity first before we continue bullish to the upside. Now these are just roadmaps. These are not exact science of what is going to happen. These are just ways to read the markets. And once we see one of our daily cycles presenting, then we can look to take that our idea into action. So thanks for watching. But for now, this is all I have for you guys, and this is how I do my analysis.